The blacklist. The war should have ended years ago. The Xarnathi Empire, with its 1,000 worlds and iron grip, had crushed every species that dared resist. Earth was supposed to fall the same way, crushed beneath orbital fire, its people broken and herded into compliance zones. But Earth didn't break. It bled. It burned. It screamed. And it fought back. Inside the obsidian halls of the Imperial War Citadel on Xarnath Prime, Empress Zyraval sat atop her glimmering throne of bone and steel, scowling at the shimmering tactical holomap before her. Red Xarnathi deployments blinked across sectors. Some flickered erratically. Others were gone entirely. Another forward base lost. General Malcare rumbled, his reptilian voice thick with unease. Theta, 9 sector is collapsing. Our patrols report ambushes, blackouts, command jamming. Resistance, she hissed. 1 operative. Human. The Empress's eyes narrowed, and the temperature in the room seemed to drop. A single human, Commander Elias Cross. Earthborn. Former Tier 9 Special Forces. Presumed dead after the fall of Galactic Station. But the pattern is undeniable. He's coordinating resistance, disabling our satellites, hijacking supply convoys, eliminating command nodes. Enough. She stood, the bone-crested collar of her armor rising like a crown of fangs. Summon the 7. 3 hours later, aboard the warship Severance, 7 figures stood in a dim chamber lit only by red stasis lights. Vrex, the stalker, hissed as his cloaking membrane flickered across his serpentine body. You woke us for 1 human. Kulagath grunted from behind his shoulder-mounted cleavers. Give me an hour. I'll bring you his spine and his woman. Synthera, with silver-black eyes and translucent veins glowing from psionic overload, simply smiled. If his mind holds secrets, I'll rip them out screaming. Brentor knelt silently, calibrating his 3-eyed scope, saying nothing. Noel, a specter wrapped in shadow armor, said less, but his form twisted unnaturally with the faint pull of void energy. Drega inhaled, his mechanical lungs exhaling steam as nanite injectors pulsed on his skin. Last was Cerex, the leader, enhanced with speed, strength, and instinct. Silent, focused, deadly. The target is human. The Empress's voice rang over the comlink. Commander Elias Cross. You are to find him, eliminate him, and display his corpse as warning to any other ape who dares resist. What if he resists us? Rex sneered, then send back his head. I want a message written in bone. Far below, on Earth's scorched and crumbling surface, Commander Elias Cross crouched inside the wreckage of an old satellite relay station. His face was carved with old scars, jaw lined with stubble, eyes colder than the Arctic. He adjusted the thermal scope on his rifle, scanning the high atmosphere. He'd intercepted the encrypted Xarnathi communication days ago. Heard them name him. The 7. He grinned. About time they sent someone interesting. The trees outside were skeletal, blackened husks, perfect kill terrain. He'd prepped it with smart mines, chameleon drones, EMP traps, and interference beacons. The Xarnathi thought he was just another meatbag with a rifle. They were wrong. Behind him, pinned to the cracked concrete wall, was a crude map of their approach vectors and a separate one labeled package return routes. At the top, in human scrawl, send back their skulls. Hours later, the 7 dropped into Earth's exosphere like spears hurled by angry gods, their personal drop pods streaking through the clouds. They landed in a wide arc surrounding a 70-mile stretch of forest and ruined city, Cross's hunting ground. Each believed they were the hunter. None realized they were prey. Cerex stood over the smoking crater of his impact zone. He opened his wrist display and activated the neural comlink. Phase 1 begins. Locate and kill. Kulagath moving, growled the berserker. Vrex sees heat trail. I follow. Mind signatures are faint, Synthera purred. But I can hear his thoughts whispering. None of them noticed the camouflaged recon drone flitting past overhead. Silent, fast, relaying it all back to a single man with a grin like a wolf. Elias Cross switched off the monitor. Time to hunt the hunters. The first 4 die bad. Elias Cross moved like a phantom through the scorched pines of northern Grid 17. A dense kill zone he'd rigged with enough explosives to level a battalion. Snow fell in thin, gray flakes through the charred branches, ash mixing with frost. His HUD blinked red. First contact, Vrex. The stalker was fast, clever, invisible to thermal. A nightmare in every war file Cross had ever read. But Elias wasn't relying on sight. He was relying on sound. A distant crunch, a leaf disturbed just wrong. Cross stood still as a statue in his ghillie mesh. Behind him, a sonic tripline pinged. Vrex crept closer, talons unsheathing. A quiet click. Vrex froze too late. The directional thermite charge exploded in a hiss of white flame, engulfing the assassin in liquid fire that clung to flesh and scale. The creature shrieked in a voice no human throat could make. Elias didn't flinch. He watched until the noise stopped. First skull collected. Southwest quadrant. 40 miles out. A seismic ping rumbled through the old subway ruins. Kulagath was coming. Cross planted his back to a steel column, rifle slung behind him. This one wouldn't be taken with traps. He was brute force incarnate, all rage and armor. The beast exploded through the floor with a roar, 6 limbs hammering down like pistons, plasma axes spinning. Cross rolled under the first swing, kicked off a wall, and fired a shock dart into Kulagath's throat. No effect. You die now, soft one. Kulagath bellowed. Elias tossed a stun grenade. Flash. Boom. A heartbeat of disorientation. And Cross was in. He jammed his blade under Kulagath's chin, drove it up through bone and brain. The behemoth fell to his knees, stunned. Elias caught one of his falling axes midair. Mine now, he muttered and swung. The second skull was Messier. 10 minutes later, at the edge of a long-abandoned hydroplant, Brentor, the sniper, lay prone with a view of a collapsed control tower. The structure still gave off faint thermal. A heat signature. A breathing human. He smiled. Target acquired, he whispered. His rifle powered up. A heartbeat from pulling the trigger. And the wall behind him erupted. Cross stepped from the smoke like a shadow, slamming the butt of his rifle into the side of Brentor's triple ocular socket. The sniper twisted, kicked, tried to phase into cover. Cross dropped low, drew his sidearm, and shot out both knee joints. Brentor screamed. Then he didn't. Elias pulled the carbon blade again. 3 down. At a mist-choked swamp near Sector 14's crash zone, Cynthia waited silently. Her mind pulsed with psionic waves, skimming through the emotions of birds, vermin, and distant prey. Then she felt something off. A mind, but not like the others. Clouded. Controlled. Found you, she whispered. She floated above the ground, gliding silently through the reeds until she reached a collapsed medical outpost. Inside, Elias sat, seemingly unaware. Unmoving. She smiled, reached into his mind, and screamed. The counter signal in his helmet triggered a broadband psionic scream. An anti-psi burst developed during Earth psychic wars. It hit her brain like a hammer. She fell from the air, clutching her head, bleeding from the ears. Elias rose. Calm, dead-eyed. He stepped forward and fired one clean round through her skull. 4th down. He knelt beside her twitching corpse and began to work. Quiet, efficient. In orbit, aboard the Severance, alarms wailed in the command deck. An officer ran to Cerex, pale and shaking. Sir, we received a package. A crate stood in the main bay, steaming from atmospheric reentry. The officer input the access code. The hatch hissed. Inside were 4 alien skulls. Scorched, clean, each labeled in Terran script. Vrex, Kulagath, Brentor, Cynthia. Tucked into the mesh netting was a note. Send more. I'm not tired yet. EC. In the command chamber, the Empress shrieked and slammed her clawed hand through a reinforced table. He's mocking us. Cerex stared at the skulls for a long moment, jaw clenched. He's not just mocking us. He's hunting us. Noel stepped out of the shadows. Then we hunt back. Cerex nodded slowly. No more solo missions. We move as a unit. No mistakes. Next time, we bring the war. Back on Earth, Cross stood atop a ridge, wind howling around him. He stared up at the low clouds, the Empire's satellites glinting like stars. He exhaled once, calm and cold, as the wind rustled the hood of his cloak. 3 more to go, and he had plenty of bullets left. The final hunt. Elias Cross stood at the edge of the ruined city, known in old maps as New Portland. What had once been glass towers and smart transit rails was now a skeletal grid of collapsed concrete and shattered steel. The perfect place to die, or to kill. 3 of them remained: Xarnathi, the nanite-charged leader; Noel, the Shadow Walker; and Drega, the disassembler. All brutal, all angry now. He welcomed it. Cross knelt beside a crate. Inside were several plasma cells, a field generator, and a data chip loaded with stolen Empire protocols. He slid the chip in his wrist pad and tapped a command sequence. Far above, in low orbit, a dormant Empire weapons satellite hummed awake. Time to level the field. Inside the city, Noel moved through the cracks of shadow, more wraith than being. His eyes adjusted constantly to light, seeing the ultraviolet spectrum where human traps usually failed. He was confident. Too confident. "He's watching us," Drega hissed over comms. His skin shimmered with swirling nanite clouds, devouring debris around him for energy. The others weren't cautious. "I will not fail." Xarnathi didn't respond. He was silent, pacing among the ruins with controlled rage. His armor flexed as microbots stitched it tighter to his muscle-bound frame. The deaths of the first 4 assassins had stripped away his professional calm. Now he wanted blood. "I want eyes on Cross. I want his location. No traps. No mistakes," he said flatly. "Copy," Noel whispered. Drega moved east. Noel took the north flank. Xarnathi stalked forward, straight into the city's burning heart. Elias Cross watched it all unfold from a high vantage, an old parking garage with a full view of the southern zone. He had a satellite-linked eye on each of them. He activated the signal beacon. Far above, the Empire's satellite's orbit adjusted. "Target lock," confirmed. Elias pulled a remote trigger. A blast of white fire screamed down from the heavens, tearing into Sector C6. The block Drega had just entered. The explosion flattened buildings, shattered windows for miles, and left only a molten crater behind. Cross-checked the satellite feed. Drega's biosignal was gone. Atomized. 3 skulls down. 2 to go. But Noel wasn't dead, and he was no longer hunting. He was stalking. From the shadows behind Cross, the Void Walker emerged, his armor absorbing sound and light. He moved through dimensions, slipping past cameras, sensors, every defense, until he was 5 feet behind Elias. He leapt, but Elias didn't flinch. A solar flash mine ignited midair, triggered by Noel's own movement signature. The light, tuned to burn retina and void-sensitive tissue, hit him like a thunderbolt. Noel shrieked, reeling, visible now as he clawed at his head. Elias rolled, drew his combat knife, and lunged. 1 stab, then another. Then he drove the blade into Noel's chest and twisted hard. The body fell twitching. Elias wiped his blade, lifted the Voidwalker's twitching corpse by the collar, and whispered, "You should have stayed in the shadows." He dragged Noel's body to the edge of the building and hurled it off. 6 down. 1 to go. Xarnathi arrived moments later, just in time to see Noel's corpse hit the pavement with a sickening crunch. He didn't shout, didn't rage. He simply looked up. Elias stood silhouetted on the ledge above, wind whipping through his cloak, rifle in one hand, knife in the other. "Hello, Xarnathi," Cross said through his mask. "You're not a man," Xarnathi growled. "You're a disease." Elias leapt from the ledge. He landed hard and fast. The impact shook the street, and then they collided. Xarnathi moved like lightning, nanite-boosted muscles striking with precision and fury. He punched Cross across the faceplate, fracturing the HUD. Cross stumbled back, but responded with a shotgun blast at point blank. The pellets shredded Xarnaxi's armor, but he didn't fall. He roared, grabbing Cross by the throat and slamming him into a wall. "You killed 6 of the finest," Xarnathi snarled. "But I'm not like them." "Yeah," Elias rasped. They didn't talk as much. He headbutted Xarnathi, drove his knee into the alien's gut, then triggered a wrist-mounted EMP charge. The pulse blasted outward, disabling Cerex's nanite network. Suddenly sluggish, the assassin's blows slowed. Cross rolled behind him, grabbing a length of rebar from the rubble. And then the real fight began. Raw, primal, brutal. No finesse. Just fists, metal, and grit. Finally, with a roar, Cross drove the rebar through Cerex's neck. The alien fell to his knees, gurgling. Elias stepped forward, pulled the blade from his belt, and with a single clean motion, ended it. 7 skulls. An hour later, aboard the Severance, alarms sounded once more. Another crate arrived. The Empress herself stood before it, heart pounding. She opened it. 1 skull. The final one. Cerex. And with it, a simple note. Told you I wasn't tired. EC. The chamber fell silent. Then panic began. Back on Earth, Elias stood at the ruin's edge. He looked to the sky, where distant stars blinked over a shattered planet. He wiped blood from his hands and holstered his weapon. He wasn't finished. The war was still coming. But he had just reminded the galaxy of one brutal truth. You don't send killers to hunt humans. You send armies. Message received. The stars above Xarnathi Prime dimmed for a moment. Not from cosmic dust or orbital realignment, but from fear. Aboard the throne ship Obsidian Womb, Empress Saraval stood motionless in front of a large obsidian screen that displayed the last incoming transmission from the Earth sector. The crate had arrived. The skull had been verified. Cerex was dead. The Empress, cold-blooded monarch of 1,000 subjugated worlds, remained eerily silent. Her long, clawed fingers gently traced the rim of Cerex's scorched skull. Behind her, war ministers and admirals whispered nervously. This can't be one man, hissed High Strategist Callan. It must be a Terran Black Ops unit, supported by rogue AI or local resistance cells. No, said Minister Vorik, his eyes flicking to the display. This is one man. They replayed the footage. The Empire had tried to scrub all recordings of their failure, but Elias Cross had overridden multiple communication beacons and inserted unfiltered video. Each assassin's death, each tactical maneuver, each final strike. The entire galaxy had seen it. Across dozens of systems, resistance cells, once isolated and desperate, watched in awe. Human soldiers, alien slaves, defectors from other empires, all saw the footage. The message attached was short. This is what happens when you send monsters to kill humans. There are worse things than monsters. Elias Cross. The word spread faster than any viral plague. On a rusted prison moon in the Grial cluster, a human slave whispered, he sent their skulls back. On a water world enslaved for generations, a dying soldier said, one man fought them and won. On distant colonies under imperial rule, walls were spray-painted with 3 letters. EC. Back on Earth, Elias Cross stood atop the broken statue of a Xarnathi overlord in what remained of old DC. Behind him, a human resistance convoy rumbled through the streets. Trucks, walkers, scouts, and armor retrofitted from salvaged enemy tech. A young soldier stepped beside him. We've received pings from 13 systems, she said. They saw what you did. Some are rising already. And, some are asking for you. Elias didn't smile, but his voice had a dark warmth. They don't need me. They just need the truth. She glanced up at him. What now? He looked toward the stars. We go to them. The Empire thinks this is over. That killing the 7 ends the story. But this isn't about assassins. This is about fire. About memory. About what happens when you corner a species that never learned how to bow. He turned away from the ruins, walking toward the mobile command truck. Prep a drop ship, he said. We're taking this to their doorstep. Elsewhere, in the classified inner sanctum of the Xarnathi throne world, the Empress walked alone through a chamber that only 3 living beings had ever entered. Here, stasis pods glowed in the darkness, each holding an ancient, sleeping terror. Beings long thought gone. War monsters, biotitans, eldritch constructs. She reached for a control panel. Shall I wake the sleepers? Your radiance? The chamber AI asked. She paused, staring down at Serex's skull once more. Something was carved into the bone, burned in by plasma knife. "I'm coming for you next." Her hand froze. A rare feeling coiled in her chest. Uncertainty. "No," she finally said. "Not yet." Back aboard the obsidian womb, chaos bloomed. Rebellions ignited in 5 sectors. A cruiser dockyard in Sigma, for exploded from within. A governor's palace in Varnak burned with every guard slain by their own drones, hacked by Earth's ghosts. All of it done under the banner now known by trillions. The Skull Rebellion. That night, Elias stood alone beside a fire in the Oregon Mountains. The cold bit at his skin, but he ignored it. Beside him sat 7 sacks, each one holding a polished alien skull. He kept one, Serex, not for trophies, for reminders. He placed the skull on a rock, looked it in the eyes, and said, "You failed because you were sent. I'm coming because I chose to." He poured a line of fuel on the ground, struck a flare, and watched fire consume the rock face in the shape of the old Earth military sigil, now reclaimed. Humanity first. He didn't need a crown, didn't need rank. He only needed enemies, and their permission to die, because Elias Cross was never just a man. He was what waited when the monsters went too far.